And hello, everyone, and thanks for joining. As I was saying, we are going to talk about Wardley Maps and other tools that can we connect to create our strategy. We are Enrique and Ismael, and we are both agile coaches at DDD Spain. And if you want to share more info about the topic we are presenting today, don't hesitate to contact us, please. And here is our promise for today's session. By the end of the presentation, you will receive enough inputs to know what is a Wardley Map, be able to read one, and connect this with other tools like DDD and Team Topologies, and hopefully the desire to start your own Wardley Map. In the agenda, we have first, we are giving some context. Later, we will create together a Wardley Map. And after that, we will use Team Topologies and DDD to enrich our map. Also, we will highlight some takeaways. And with this presentation done, let's start. This is a Wardley Map. It is a strategic map about your product with relevant information that will help you make decisions on your strategy. But to illustrate better what I'm saying, I will use another kind of map that we are more familiar with. It is based on the Battle of Thermopylae. Maybe you have seen the movie of 300 Spartans. And in this example, you can quickly identify that blue is for water, white is for the land. We have an anchor, the north, that helps us to know we are reading the map in the right direction. And also we can see the exact position of the cities and key elements like the mountains. Finally, the red arrows are telling us the move of the troops of each army. So, as I said before, by the end of this presentation, Wardley Maps will look more friendly than they are by now. And the best way to learn is practicing. We are going to create a Wardley Map altogether, but first, we need to talk about the strategy cycle. It is formed by 5 elements, and they are also the steps we will follow to create our Wardley Map and our strategy. The first one is the purpose. It is the scope of what you are doing and why you are doing it. It is the reason why others follow you. The second one is the landscape. It's a description of the environment that you are competing in. It includes the position of elements, features, and obstacles in our way to our objective. Then it's time for climate. Describes the forces that are out of your control, the rules of the game. It impacts the landscape, and you don't choose them, but you can discover them. Then it's time for the doctrine. It's the training of your forces, the standard way of working, and the techniques that you almost always apply. These are the universal principles, the set of beliefs and that appear to work regardless of the landscape that is faced. And last, leadership is about the strategy that you choose considering your purpose, the landscape, the climate, and your capabilities. It is your decisions. And as all we do in Agile, the process of strategy is not a linear process, but an iterative cycle. The climate might affect your purpose, the environment might affect your strategy, and your actions might affect all. But acting is the essential element that gives us the opportunity to learn. And for continuing learning, we want to present you now the example we are following in this presentation. Let's imagine we are a micromobility company and we start our journey through the strategy cycle. The first stop is the purpose. We are not going to give you a class about how to define a good purpose, but we want to highlight the importance of having one that really represents your desires. Here, you can see 2 examples that can suit to our company. One is offer a scooter rental service in cities, and the other one is easy, sustainable, and cheap commuting through the city. We think that the second option is closer to what we want to create because this new transport service has to be respectful with the environment, and it doesn't have to be expensive for this reason. And now that we have our purpose, it's time to draw our landscape. The first step is to define a scope for our map and identify users and their needs. In our example, the scope will be the rental and maintenance service. And we have identified 2 different users for our system. The users, that is the people who have to commute, and the maintenance staff. We will focus in a small set of their needs. For the user will be find a device, rent a device, and recharge credit. For the staff will be get a delivery route to distribute the scooters around the city. And just a quick tip, you can create a separate Wordly map for each user if you see it's complicated to put the information all together. With all of that, the second step is to create a value chain. And this chain will be the vertical axis of our Wardley map. At the top, we have the elements that are more visible to the users, and at the bottom, we have the ones that are less visible to them. But don't worry, because users don't need to know about this. Remember that users are the anchor of our map. They have to be always on the top, and there is nothing that can be over the position. Also, we use the dotted line to separate the user underneath from the elements of our product, making it more visible. Okay, we will start constructing our value chain, working on the need, find a device. Here we have, it's in our product, device localization service gives support to find a device. And he has two relations. It's the need. Is the device localization service needs a map service to give this functionality, and also the device availability system. The availability system also needs the scooter and its own GPAs, and the device database with all the information of all the scooters. The second need is rent a device. We have a pickup scooter as a feature. It takes advantage of the device availability. It also needs the user balance and user credit database to know if he has enough money to rent a new device. The scooter itself, and a booking database where we are registering all the activity. The third need of our user is the recharge credit. It's supported by the perks service, which is using the user balance and also the payment gateway. And this payment gateway is also updating the user credit database. From our staff maintenance, we have the get delivery route. It's supported by the route service, which takes advantage of the device availability system, and an AI algorithm that is looking, it needs the booking database to provide the best route possible to distribute the scooters and make our business work, and have happy customers. With all of this, we have created the value chain. And now it's time to introduce another axis, the horizontal one. It is separated in 4 stages, 3 evolution stages: Genesis, custom build, product, and commodity. To give some examples, we can focus, for example, in the market. How is this market for each of the elements of our map or value chain? It's an undefined market. It's something that is forming, growing, or maybe it's something mature. The other element we can evaluate is the failure tolerance. When we are in Genesis, there is a high tolerance to failure, and as we progress and we arrive to a product, it is not tolerated. In a commodity, we are looking for efficiency, which is a bit different. Or maybe we focus on the value. In Genesis, we are evaluating if it has a high future. In custom build, we are seeking for profit. When we arrive to product, it's high profitable. And when it's a commodity, we need high volumes to get value of this. Don't worry, you don't have to remember all this information. There is existing cheat sheet with all these topics and examples that helps you to decide all this information for each of the elements. So returning to our example, here is our value chain, what we have constructed before. Now it's time to decide if we have fixed the vertical alignment of each element, and we have to define if each of these elements have to go to the left or to the right. And here, by art of magic, we are moving all elements, and this is now distributed. What we have defined as Genesis, the AI algorithm, is something we are constructing. We are not sure if it's perfect. Maybe it has a lot of error. We are learning, but it's the core of our business, and we are investing a lot on it. It is something that you can probably not find, don't find anywhere. Some examples of custom build can be pickup scooter and device localization. It is something that doesn't sound rocket science, but it's very custom to our needs and has to be developed by ourselves. If we move to products, we can think about the scooter. Probably there are a lot of manufacturers that create the scooters nowadays. that we can use, but the ones we need has a specific features. That's why it is not a commodity, it's a product, because it's something that has to be enabled for our service. And if we go to a commodity, one good example could be the map service. No? Nowadays, nobody is trying to create their own cartography. It's more easier to go to services like Google Map, OpenStreetMaps, and take profit of this to accelerate your business and your product. And here is our first Wardley Map. And believe it or not, we have many things left to learn. But with this 20%, you are ready to create your first Wardley Map with your team. I can grant you will have big conversations and big discussions about where it has to be more over, down, left, or to the right, each of these elements. And with all of this, I give pass to Enrique to continue the presentation. He will continue with climate patterns.
Okay, thank you, Isma. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, we'll start with the climate patterns. Climate patterns, as we said before, are those things that are out of our control. It's like the weather or the path of the seasons or the acts of our competitors. We cannot allow them to happen, but being aware of them will allow us to anticipate and define a better approach. As you can see in this small graphic, there are about 30 climatic patterns related to competitors, speed, financial subjects, inertia, a lot of concepts. Now we are going to see some of the most relevant. One of them is the pattern that everything evolves according to the rules of the supply and the demand. Okay, so what today is, for example, in the custom build stage, tomorrow will be in the product stage. Okay, everything evolves, and also the characteristics of the components change. There could be a undefined market today in some component, and in the future will be a mature market, or what today is something rare, sooner or later will become something widespread and established. A very important climate pattern is the efficiency enables innovation, and the opposite, that is, the higher order system create new sources of value. It's clear with the example of the TV and the electricity. As far as electricity was becoming a common product, it fostered the innovation in the development of home appliances. But in the other direction, the high demand of TVs, radios, and other home appliances force the electric companies to be more efficient and to widespread their product. And finally, the past success can generate inertia. This makes us to try to stop the evolution of those things that worked well for us in the past. Now let's see how to represent this in our map. In our map, we can identify many kinds of climate patterns. For example, the higher order demand or artificial intelligence or machine learning will pull from our component to create a more efficient component. I mean, the more the market demands these features, is the faster they will evolve to be in a more efficient state. Also, the components on the external map service will allow us to innovate and create new sources of work in the device localization system in this case. I mean, new features in the component that are on the commodity column will allow us or will lead us to create more innovation in the component that is in the custom build. Or another climate pattern is that due to the past success of our credit service, we can create some kind of inertia to change that component. We may believe that our component is so good that it won't evolve. Or what worse, we think we don't need even to evolve it. Remember, we cannot control all these things. They will happen anyway. But at least with this situational awareness, we can see where they can impact, and we can anticipate to minimize their result or even taking advantage of them. Until now, we have focused on knowing the landscape and observe the potential effect of the climate patterns. Now we'll move into a phase where we start to prepare ourselves for taking advantage of the map. It's like a phase where we orient our resources to master some widely accepted skills and practices. It's what at Wardley Maps we call doctrines. Doctrines are universal principles that apply regardless of the context. They are those aspects that we can train or adopt because they will help us. An example for clarifying. Imagine that we are a football team. Some doctrines that could apply is have a good physical state, or can be being accurate on passing the ball, or having a powerful shot. Another example, a military squad, some doctrines could be fire a rifle or attacking from the wings. Both are widely accepted and always work. But when talking about product, services, and business, Wardley Map describes around 40 doctrines grouped into several areas, like, for example, communication, where we have the use of a common language, or challenge assumptions, or being transparent. The development, where we can find know your users, focus on user needs or user standards. Operation, that includes the failure management, the look for effectiveness over efficiency. The learning and leading, with the move path or the make strategy iterative doctrines. And the structure, with doctrines like thinking small teams, provide purpose, mastery, and autonomy, or seeking for the best. As you can see, there are a lot of doctrines, but not all of them have the same impact or cost. That's why doctrines are divided in 4 phases, so we can embrace them gradually. And how can we represent doctrine in our map? Here we can see a first example of a doctrine, that is the use appropriate methods, or the no one size fits all. Instead of using the same methodology or framework in the whole organization, we use different ones depending on the teams or the components state. In this case, for example, we can see that while components in the genesis or in the custom build stages work better with agile methodologies, the components in the product stage fit better with lean or with Six Sigma approaches. Another doctrine is the thinking small in small teams. In this map, we are applying the think small, and we split our organization into 3 smaller teams. This allows us to reduce the cognitive load of the teams and trigger some of the doctrines. And in parallel, we are also dividing them by using the thinking small as thinking in contracts. We are trying to minimize the dependencies or relationships between teams. At this point, and previous to moving to the leadership step, we would like to remark 2 tools that fit very well with Wardley Maps, and more specifically with the doctrines. They are the team topologies and the domain-driven design. And we say remark because they aren't the only ones. There are other topics like agile, lean, accelerate, or even the advantage behaviors that will help us to train some of the doctrines. We'll start with team topologies. Very quickly, for those of you that don't know about this book, it states that there are 4 types of teams and 3 interaction modes between them. The 4 fundamental team types are string align, enabling, complicated subsystems, and platform teams. The team interaction modes are collaboration, X or whatever as a service, and facilitating. And a key learning from team topology is that enabling autonomy on string alignment teams must be the goal of the 3 other topologies. All right. Then the first we should do with our map is look for strings of chains that are suitable to be in charge of a team. Then we can assign the string to the team or make the team owner of that string. In this way, we reinforce, among others, doctrines like being owner, provide purpose, mastery, and autonomy. We can also look for capability gaps and address them through complicated subsystem teams or enabling teams. But remember, always trying to give autonomy to the string aligned teams. This is only a small sample of how Wardley Maps and Team Topologies can help us with our internal organization. The other tool is domain-driven design. Is a tool that helps us with the doctrine section of the strategy cycle 2. It focuses on understanding the problem domain first, and it achieves this by a close collaboration between domain experts and the development teams in order to generate a domain knowledge and an ubiquitous language. Well, sent to this, we are training several doctrines like using a common language, understand what's being considered, or distributing the power and the decision making. Another way to take advantage of DDD when applying doctrines is through the strategy design. Some techniques, as event storming, help us to discover bounded contexts that can add information to our map and identify what's core for our company and what's only a supporting or even out-of-the-box component. Here, we can see the output of an event storming held at Milanuncios a couple of years ago, and as the session was moving forward, the contexts of Milanuncios were emerging. And once we have our context, our subdomains, we can move them to our Wardley map. So we can differentiate here what are our core domains. In this case, are marked with a star, and what are the supporting domains or the generic domains. Okay? Some doctrines that we are putting in action in this sample is the knowing the details or the design for a constant evolution. Another important contribution of DDD to Wardley Maps is context mapping. Knowing how relationships between components are designed will allow us to organize them much better. So now is the moment to make decisions, to create a strategy and move into action. And we'll do it by the leadership part. Once we have the good knowledge of the landscape, good knowledge of the climatic pattern that affect it, and we are acting following the universal doctrines, is the moment to draw our strategy. And for doing this, there are several areas where we can apply common strategy patterns, also called gameplays, looking to our map. So, for example, we can work on the user perception through educating our users, creating brand, or even creating artificial needs. We can use accelerator as open source approaches, or we might rely on the accelerators like intellectual property rights. We can add also in other categories like the market, the ecosystem, or our competitors, and we can combine all these patterns with attacking or defensive strategies, positional approaches, or even some toxic or poisonous strategies. Coming back to our map, we might decide, for example, 3 gameplays: the talent rate, the openness, and alliance. In the Genesis column, we can say the talent rate that is something that makes sense for this column or the custom build stage. Imagine that there is a lack of skill profiles in the market, and then obviously getting those profiles working with us will prevent them to work for our competitors. So we can focus our strategy on getting all the people that is skilled. Other gameplay to use is the open approaches for those components where a better efficiency will result in more value for us. In the sample, if we open to other companies to fulfill our bookings database, it will generate better results from our AI algorithm, and then it will give us more value. Finally, another example, if we identify a threat in the market, we could use a threat acquisition. But if the acquisition is for growing, we can see it as an alliance, and we can take advantage of that ecosystem. So these are only 3 examples, but for sure that we can apply more for moving into action. Well, a lot of information we know. Here you are the 4 key takeaways we'd like you to remember. The first one, at www.wardleymapping.com, you can download the book for free, and you can find lots of material for learning. The second, the sooner you start creating your map, the better. It's very important. Create your map this afternoon, next week. The sooner the better. Don't look for a perfect map. Only try to identify your users, identify their needs, create the value chain, and start creating your map. Now you have the basic steps, and it will drive you to amazing discussions and discoveries. Third, once you have created your first map, you'll be ready for discover lots of common market patterns, and this will help you to go forward. You'll discover new climate patterns, new doctrines, and dozens of gameplays or strategies. And 4, if you are eager to know more, don't hesitate to contact us, and we can share experiences, doubts, or whatever. And with this, we are over. Thank you for your attendance, and it's time for your questions.
All right, Enrique and Ismael, that was very nice. Thank you very, very much for sharing with us. I personally love the Team Topologies connection. That's also another very, very hot topic in Adevinta, and I guess everywhere in the world, if you're talking about IT companies these days. So that was pretty cool. I see one question for Joan Diaz, and he asks you guys, can you share any example of Wardley Map you used, and what decisions did you take based on it? I think he really wants to see some concrete examples that you guys have been using, probably in Adevinta Spain.
Well, we don't have real samples, but for example, in the links on the presentation, we will share the Miro board where we build the sample for today. So it's really easy to create the sample, and we was just pretending to be a micromobility company, but doing the Wardley Map drove us to a lot of questions, drove us to a lot of decisions, and it was very, very interesting.
Well, I can share is with one colleague out of Adevinta. We were doing a pilot of all of this. We are in the early stages, but as Enrique said, this is an example. There are doubts, but when you dig in real scenarios, everything changes. The conversations are more rich, and there is more insights than just guessing when you are doing the example. But the example itself gives you the opportunity to learn, for sure.
We enjoy it very much preparing the sample, and we were nearly creating a micromobility company.
All right, that's very nice. And I see some kudos also from Igor, giving you guys some pauses. Good. Wow, that's very good, very good. All right, I don't see any other questions, so I guess we can wrap this one here. And I just wanted to say thank you again, Enrique and Ismael. That was very nice for you guys sharing something that's probably very new to a lot of us here in Adevinta. So that was very cool, and we definitely look forward to see some of the links. We'll be attaching to the presentation, to the video later. So that's very nice. Thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a good one.
Thank you.
Great organization.
Great.